Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a special guest joining us, Mr. Jonathan Wallet. Thank you, John, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
John is the director of the Elite Coaching Academy. He's a former national coach and has coached players on both the LPGA Tour and also on the European Tour. He's published multiple books and has helped hundreds of golf professionals and coaches improve their knowledge and their businesses through his education program. So great to have you here, John. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
So, as you know, John, the channel, the idea is that we help coaches around the world with their businesses, that we give tips and advice on how they can build businesses, be more successful. And I think the first question on everybody's mind is how are we dealing with the current COVID situation, loss of earnings, and all these restrictions. Maybe you can tell us how you've adapted your own personal business to the current conditions.
Okay, well, hello everyone, and first of all, thank you, Adam, for giving me the opportunity to talk with you today. And I wish your show was around 30 years ago, because I can hold my hand up and say I've pretty much made all the mistakes in my coaching career, but hopefully I've learned from one or two of them. Yes, this COVID situation, this pandemic, I mean, who could have envisaged it 12 months ago? It really is totally took everyone by surprise. I know it's been a very difficult time for a lot of people, and of course the coaching industry as well, with golf clubs closed, lots of restrictions. I suppose my take on it has been that, you know, when I coach players, I say that, you know, we've got to see difficulties as challenges, okay? And in every difficulty, there's the opportunity for a seed of greater opportunity. And I think whilst it has been very difficult and it has been very challenging, I think if you can take that mindset of actually trying to find what the opportunity is, then I think that's probably the best way to handle it, but very difficult for sure. In my own situation, you know, I suppose more and more the percentage of my income is coming from doing stuff which doesn't require me to stand in front, if you like, of a player or a group of coaches. So, i.e. more online, certifications, webinar courses, and things like that. Also, other things I just got off the line to talking to someone about licensing one of our academies in China, in Beijing. So you've got to look at different opportunities, but for sure it's very challenging.
Mm-hmm. So you've been in the business over 30 years, John, would you say?
Yes. Yeah. Look at the grey hairs.
In your personal opinion, what has been the biggest changes in the world of coaching since you began 30 years ago?
I think, first of all, I think coaching is much more of more valued, actually, and more of an integral part in player development these days. Certainly, you know, when I was starting out, you had a lesson or two at the beginning when you just started, and then you were very much left to your own devices. You know, I was, and even at the elite level, I mean, I was in the England junior team, and we used to have national training squads with the national coach John Sterling and me on Valley, and that was a weekend in March and a weekend in autumn, and that was it. And even in those 2 days when we met, there was a lot of snooker being played as well. So that was the national training program. So I think coaching at every level has become much more involved, and certainly when I look back and in my own coaching career and how I used to coach as a young coach, and you know, the knowledge these days and the way coaches can really assist, whether it's a beginner, whether it's a club player, or whether it's an elite junior, how they can really assist and accelerate the progress. I think it's wonderful, and I definitely think coaches are a lot more part of the development system these days.
Has technology advances been the main power behind that, or do you think it's just the development of the coach itself and their knowledge, or what would you put that down to?
I think that, obviously we're in a much more connected world. When I was trying to learn about coaching, you get a book and you read the book. And certainly when I was growing up as a player, I had 4 books. I had the 3 Jack Nicklaus books, Golf My Way, and then the In a Game of Golf by Tim Gowie. And pretty much my formal learning was from those books. But now obviously we've got the internet, we've got YouTube. And I think that's really helped connect coaches. I think coaches are much more savvy. They're much more better knowledge, and I think then that has really allowed allowed better knowledge, better coaching to create better players faster.
Mm. If you could give the younger John Wallet one piece of advice, he's just starting his coaching career and he wasn't going to make as many mistakes as you've made or as we've all made, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give a young coach or a young Jonathan Wallet just starting his career today?
I mean, that's a quite a difficult question, I must say, and I think if you ask me at different times, I'd say different answers. But to try to answer that question now, I think we have to. I suppose what can happen very often in coaching is that, when I was a young coach, I was coaching on my own at a driving range for a number of years, and I think there's a lot of coaches out there which are, if you like, rowing their own dinghy. They're in their own rowing boat. And I think connecting with other coaches, and I think the more you can connect, you can learn obviously from different other coaches. You can obviously coaches which are a little bit older, more experienced, mentorship, but also, I think it's also about you also helping the people which are maybe a little bit under you or less experienced as well. So if we're more connected, everyone helping each other. And I think the more we're together, the more we communicate with each other, everyone benefits. So to answer your question about the advice I would give to a younger Jonathan Wallet would be, to try to network probably a little bit more.
Do you think that's still a problem in the golf industry, that coaches are not prepared to share their knowledge with other coaches, that they're still prepared to row their own dinghy, or do you think that's changing?
I think it is changing to some degree, but I think, like in everything, change can take time. And I think, I think we have to understand that, the more we connect, the more we communicate, the more we all grow, and the more everyone wins. Okay, and the more we sort of keep to ourselves, the more we, more isolated we are. Probably, nobody wins.
Just going quickly back to the COVID situation, John, how do you think COVID has changed the landscape or will change the landscape for the golf industry in general? Do you think it will have a big effect on the future of the golf industry, what's happening currently, or do you think in 2 or 3 years' time it will be behind us and we'll carry on as we were?
I mean, it's a good question, and I think it's obviously difficult to say. I mean, no one's got the crystal ball, but I would never, if someone said to me in March during the lockdown, that golf was going to have a big boom during the summer and membership, I would never have foreseen that. I would have said totally the opposite. Mm-hmm. And I think that surprised me. And I suppose, so what you could say based on that is that people realize maybe a little bit more, the opportunity of playing a sport outdoors, and perhaps this could be a really good opportunity for golf to, membership on the whole has been declining worldwide. I mean, golf participation hasn't declined, but there's been more, if you like, public golfers who aren't members of the golf club, and certainly, I know for golf club membership, this has been a really great thing, and certainly I think I could see that continuing. But of course, who knows what the long-term economic impact will be from COVID. But ultimately, most golfers, they are working for minimum wage in a coffee shop. And so I think possibly golf could, even if the economic situation isn't too strong over the forthcoming years, I think golf could probably still prosper, and I think it's possibly a really good time actually for golf clubs.
I read somewhere that a manager of a golf club in America was saying that he felt that the COVID situation had saved golf in a way, that it sort of brought the advantages of the sport to the fore, where people have realized, well, actually, this is great. I should be playing golf.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's certainly what we're seeing so far. So, yeah, that could be a great opportunity for the game to really, grow.
So, just coming back to a 19-year-old golf coach, just doing his apprenticeship. What skills would a 19-year-old golf coach need today in order to become a successful coach, but also in order to build a successful business?
Well, just looking at my own journey, I think certainly one of my beliefs, which was wrong, or concepts starting out, was if I could become as good a coach as I could be in terms of technical knowledge, then the business side would take care of itself. That was certainly a concept I had. Mm-hmm. and how wrong I was, and I think I was very fortunate that I met someone called Bill Sanderson, who's very well known in the golfing world, and he sort of coaches golf coaches to become better at their businesses. And so I met him a number of years ago, and then I've worked with him closely ever since. And if someone said to me, well, what would I do different? I would like to have met him when I was 20 and not 40, because he's had a fantastic impact on shaping my thinking that, if you want to develop a good golf business, you have to, have certain protocols, certain systems, and you've got to pay attention to those just as much as growing your expertise in actually coaching players. Yeah.
Is there certain skills that a coach would need today that that you and I both maybe didn't need? I mean, I've been coaching also over 20 years now. I did make those skills as I went along, but obviously being a good coach, I've always said, makes you busy, but doesn't give you a successful business. What other skills do you think you need today to be? Obviously, you need the automated things in place, like you said, but what skills as a coach do you need, other than just being a good teacher and a good golf coach?
So I think that, you've got to become a good communicator. Mm-hmm. I love a term from Butch Harmon, and whereby, they sent out a survey to all the top coaches in the US, asking to define, well, one of the questions was asking, in the shortest sentence possible, define what you do. And, some people obviously wrote, I coach golf. Some people wrote, I coach golfers. And Butch wrote, I coach people who play golf. So subtle difference, but big difference, in the sense that we always have to understand we're coaching humans, and so step one is we've got to deal with the human, communicate with the human, understand him, help him or her, and then the golf comes thereafter. So I think communication is very important.
Would you say, like a young coach coming into the business, in terms of the building his own business, would a coach need other soft skills like use of social media, how building websites, email marketing, these kind of things? Would that be just a bonus, or would you say those skills are a necessity today to run a successful business?
I'd say those skills are a necessity. I mean, I think we can see how coaches like me and my golf, Andy Proudman and Piers Ward, and not just them, many others, George Gankas. I mean, these coaches have basically built their brand through social media. So I think that, understanding how to use social media, how to connect with, potential audiences, and how to, engage and keep an ongoing communication with your audience, I think, yeah, these are skills which you most definitely would profit from. You know, the better you get, and the earlier you got these skills. Yeah.
If I'm running a reasonably successful coaching business, I'm quite full, I have a good reputation, but I want to earn more income, which is also, you know, one of the pillars of this channel is to give coaches the idea on how they can increase their income. How does a modern sports coach or golf professional take his coaching business to the next level in terms of income? What would your sort of ideas be on that?
Yeah, I think and I've certainly come across that a lot in my time, where people think, well, I'm full, so I don't need to do any marketing. Okay, marketing's not important. But yeah, I mean, you know, is our goal to get fuller, or is our goal to, you know, teach better and get, you know, suitably rewarded for that expertise? And I think, you know, it comes back to the old economic curve of demand and supply. And supply is going to be consistent. So maybe you might want to coach 25 hours per week or 30 hours or whatever it is. So supply is a constant. But, you know, if you increase demand, then, you know, what we call the price determination in the open market is increased. And so I think that we've got to always look to progress and develop demand. Identify what your brand is and identify what your USP is. And you really let your coaching audience understand what your values are as a coach, and how you can help them, what the benefits from your coaching programs are. So I think to go to the next level, I think, you know, there needs to be a real consistent focus on the business element. And certainly that's, you know, if I look back at my 30 years, I had 20 years where I was focused on being a good golf coach, as good as I can be. The last 10 years, I focused on trying to be as good golf coach as I can be, but then worked on the business with the same level of focus due to having some outside assistance. And I can't say, you know, if there's, going back to your question earlier, I wish I had that outside assistance, you know, when I was 20, not starting at 40, because you know, it allows you to work in the way you want, with the audience you want, okay, in the way that you want. And it really, I can't, you know, I must say that over the last 10 years, I never felt I've done a day's work, because I've really enjoyed the type of coaching, because, you know, I was able to identify what my ideal day looks like, what my ideal week looks like, what my ideal coaching audience looks like. And by identifying that, I've been able to gravitate towards that and also earn, you know, a very solid income to support the family.
So part of that is having a vision of how you want to work, how you know, how does your perfect day look like, and then create the services, create the value to aim towards working like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, you know, it all starts with a vision. And, you know, I wanted to get away from the 1 hour model. I didn't want to drive into the golf club car park knowing that the next 10 hours I've got 10 customers I've got to satisfy in a range box. You know, and I'm not saying there's anything against that, but it's just not what I wanted to do. And I wanted to work with players in a different way. I wanted to work with them in small groups. So I do lots of camps. And when I do work with individual players, we do it on a half day or a day basis. So I'm doing a half day in the morning and a half day in the afternoon, and it gives me time as a coach. We can get some really good discussion going. We can look at different aspects of the game, and we can work to a long-term plan, whether that's a club player, whether it's an elite player. And I think that's the way I wanted to work, and fortunately, that's the way I have been able to work for most of the last 10 years. And so it's a real pleasure to work. And then, of course, you know, working in that way, I feel that it's helped accelerate my students' improvement. And so, you know, they're happy to pay more. So it's just a win-win.
I wanted to say, anyway, going down that sort of direction of coaching actually enhances the pupil's performance as well. You know, you mentioned getting away from the 1 hour lesson. I've discussed it before. Hard also to see improvement or long-term improvement when you work in that sort of environment.
Yeah, and if there's you know, a lesson or some sort of experience that I've gathered over this time to hand to, you know, your younger coaching audience, is to try to, where possible, get away from that someone paying you for the 1 hour lesson, because you know, we've got to be paid for our expertise, and we've got to create programs. I like to create programs which are much longer term, and I think people see value in that, and that they're willing to, you know, to invest as a result. So yeah, I think really try to think about what your ideal day looks like, what your ideal week looks like, who are your ideal clients, and that's a starting point. You know, reverse engineer it so you can sort of gravitate towards that vision.
What would you say, John, to the guys who are a little bit more restricted onto how they work? You know, we're both self-employed. We're fortunate to have a reasonable choice in how we work. If you're employed now by a golf club and you are expected to do X hours, and your agenda is full, and you're sat at home listening to this now and you're thinking, well, I can't do a half-day coaching, or I can't. How would you go about that? How would you go about changing that sort of system?
Well, I think you probably, whilst you're working, you're employed and you're working for an employer, you probably would still have ability to shape how the programs look. So, you know, you could do short game mornings, so over 3 hours with a small group of 3 or 4 people. In the evening, you can do practice clubs where you're managing a group of people and giving guided practice sessions. So, you know, even within that employed model, you can still very much shape how the coaching program looks like. And I'm sure, you know, the manager would be only too happy, because, you know, the managers, yeah, typically directors of golf clubs, if they're employing coaches, yes, one objective is to bring in income, but actually a much bigger win for the golf club is actually not the income from, you know, taking a third or half of the lesson fee. A much bigger win for the golf club is, you know, if they can build memberships, if they can bring more members in, if they can retain members, or if it's a proprietary club, not a members club, like a hotel and resort, that they can bring people in to come and use the restaurant and stay in the hotel. That's a much, much bigger win than taking a proportion of the lesson fee. So if you can shape your programs based on that, I'm sure you're in a strong position when you're negotiating your salary for the forthcoming year with the director.
Mm-hmm. So you would go to the club and say, listen, I want to work like this, and these are the benefits of that for everyone.
Yeah.
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 What have you done personally? I know you touched on the business side the last 10 years, but what do you do in order to continually change your business and adapt to the demands of the coaching world? Because it changes regularly. You know, we have a way of working, and 5 years later, you know, people have moved on and they've advanced it. How do you continue to stay on top of the ever-changing coaching landscape, if you like?
Well, I'm not sure I do, to be honest, Adam. I mean, it's you're trying to sort of wade my way through it as best you can. But one thing, certainly, which I never did for the first 20 years and which I have done for the last 10 years, is I think it's important to have a vision. You know, what does success look like? Okay. And from that vision, you can develop a plan, and a plan which, you know, can be broken down into quarters, into months, and then your weekly plan. And I think that one thing that was instilled in me, that, you know, you got to work at your business. You can't just, you have to be proactive, not reactive. And certainly I always taught about the Starbucks moment. So Bill used to say to me that you've got to, as a golf coach, you actually wear 3 hats. One hat is the actual coaching hat, where you're delivering your coaching. One hat is you've got to be a manager. So you've got to manage that coaching business. And the third hat is you basically have to be, if you like, the CEO or the board member, whereby you're looking at the business from a distance. And so he used to encourage me to, you know, once a month, go to Starbucks. Actually, I don't drink coffee, so I actually went to the bar and drank a beer instead. But anyway, and actually look at your plan. Very simple, you know, it's not like anything, but you have I have one page where I have the vision of what okay, good and great would look like. Okay. And some of those aren't, it's not all about finance. Some of them are, you know, just actually, I want to get a certain number of players in a certain world ranking, you know, so it's not just, you know, business goals. And then on the other side, I have the plan, and I just think about, you know, what am I doing? What's working? And what actually isn't going so good? And is there a different way? Is there another way I could do it? And then that, you know, that basically shapes my thinking. And one thing he instilled in me, which I really do, is at the beginning of every day, I look at it. I look at the vision and I look at the plan. So it's really creating a very strong inner template in my mind. And I think, you know, that really helps to, you know, I say with golf players that the biggest challenge I see is what I call the headless chicken approach, whereby there's a lot of industry, a lot of energy, a lot of work, hitting a lot of balls, playing a lot of tournaments, but a lot of them are doing it without a plan to progress. And I think that was me also as a coach, very busy, doing lots of stuff, but actually now I'm actually able to do less, spend more time with the family, but achieve more because I'm working to a plan.
You work into a plan, and it makes your work more efficient, obviously. And
yeah,
and that sort of moment, that beer that you have once a month or once a week, or it's business development. It's taking time actually to think about the business, isn't it? Which I think a lot of coaches forget to do. I think they don't take, if they see a Monday morning that they don't have any lessons, they see it as time off, chill out, relax, but they could still be actually helping their business in those times off.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, just like as golf coaches, we can help facilitate the learning of our students and improving them and create an accountability because, yeah, they check in with us once a week or however often they see us once a month. I do feel there's a massive benefit to having someone there in the background helping you with your coaching business because it keeps you accountable. It keeps you, well, you know, hey, this is the plan we made last month. How are you getting on? Oh, well, actually, I got really busy coaching. I didn't do anything. You know, it keeps you accountable. And I think just having someone in the background asking the right questions at the right time, just nudging you in the right direction, I think it's invaluable. And I think makes sense, doesn't it? We're coaches of golfers. So actually, why wouldn't we want coaching ourselves in the business side?
Exactly. We need someone to coach us on the things that we're not experts in. Absolutely. Great. The last question I have, and it goes back a little bit to, you were talking about golf clubs earlier. Let's take COVID situation out of the agenda at the moment, but what do you think, in your opinion, your experience, what do golf clubs and golf coaches have to do to attract more people to the game worldwide on the whole?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think that's a question, obviously, a lot of golf associations, golf clubs, and ask themselves. And I think there is a lot of focus. Certainly, when you look at junior golf, there's a lot of focus on what we call the vertical ascent. You know, creating the elite players, and maybe there needs to be a focus more on the horizontal to widen the base, bringing more people into the game. And so, for instance, with junior golf, I think it's really important to try to get golf into schools. Okay, that would develop participation. I think, you know, we've got to try to get more people into the game, so adults as well. So is that working with government, you know, government strategies? Is that cross marketing, working with, you know, other sports and recreation facilities, and I think, you know, actually getting people, you know, more outside, more active, off their iPads, off their Netflix, and actually playing golf. And I think, and certainly a trend I've seen, you know, on my travels in Australia, in America, I think golf clubs need to stop thinking individually. I think they need to group up. And certainly a trend I'm seeing in America, in Australia, is if you do decide to become a member of a golf club, that you might get access to 3, 4, 5 courses. Okay, because And I think the more clubs work together, it's a bit like coaching, really. The more the coach is on its own, or the more the club's on its own, I think it'll be harder to row. And I think the more they can group up, share, and think of actually not how can I improve my golf club, but step one is how can we create more golfers, and then suddenly getting more members or getting more clients. If you're a golf coach, it becomes quite easy.
Excellent. Well, John, thank you for your time today and your insights. Appreciate having you on the show. And if anybody out there wants to learn a little bit more about John and his businesses, I'll put his link in the description below. Hope to see you again soon, John. Good luck with the rest of your season, and maybe we can ask you back on the show sometime in the future.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me, and what a great initiative you're doing. So well done.
Thanks, appreciate it.